I think I'm with Johnny here actually a little bit here, Zoe. I mean, like overall, they have proven to be the runners-up in the Pro-Am. Very good lineup, very good team. But Moxie, I bet you're probably leaning towards the Outlaws, which, as the desk mentioned, have a lot of fantastic names.
I mean, you were casting with me all the way through Pro-Am. Like, you heard me gushing about Outlaws and the backline and the survivability as well. The amount of times that Tracer players tried to infiltrate into that backline, and Shu and Violet just turned 180'd and sent them packing within seconds. Like, I lost track of it. And that's going to be something that Gladiators have to do. The thing is, I'm expecting this to be a long match between both of these teams.
Yeah.
Desk said it. It was a rematch. Gladiators did win, but it was after 5 maps, and a lot of it was down to Dante pulling out that Ramatra. And Desk, I agree with them. I think that Ramatra is expected, and I think Outlaws have been preparing to be able to take it down.
Yeah, I think they really have been. And for this situation, we'll have to see if they can actually do that. I mean, like, obviously, you know, maybe it's a difference maker having Jake on the desk instead of in that war room for the Houston Outlaws. We'll have to see if they can actually make those adjustments and deal with the Gladiators, which are, you know, still a great team in their own right.
Wow, you're really doing Jake dirty as well when we've cut away from desk, so he can't even return fire.
It's a compliment because he's not there. The Outlaws are way better, right? Or worse. I mean, no wait, oh no! Well, okay, maybe I did diss Jake a little bit there on accident.
I was gonna say, how is that a compliment?
It is. It may be not. Okay, yeah, you're right.
It's not opposite day today, Dustin. That's that's not even a backhanded compliment. That's just mean. As Gladiators and Outlaws, they're going to mirror. Dante is not going for the ramp. They're going to mirror. And okay, you know what? They're going to be happy. They said that Gladiators could struggle, and a lot of them predicted Outlaws to come out on top.
You already have Dante jumping up to support Lastro on the high ground, but Babel with that early pick onto Happy, I mean, that's the benefit of running this Kariko, is you can find those headshots and get that opening pick that you need. But Pelican trades it back. He does find Lastro on the high ground, and Babel just being able to support Dante through this high ground is incredibly crucial for them. But that bubble and Outlaws rotating towards this point kind of give them the edge, and they'll take that point first.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about the benefits of running the Kiriko. Benefits of running the Echo, you can just drop down and annihilate one of the members from Gladiator's team, as well as being able to use the beam to just chunk through that Winston shield too, given the nerf that its health bar is on now. It just makes it so problematic for those Winston players to deal with.
Pelican just kind of coming back now, actually comes back for the peel. Happy did trade back Kevster. Nice job to come back and peel for the Dante Winston and Outlaws. Very, very fast team fight win for them.
Shu holding up that nano boost. Violet's keeping pace as well with that Brigida rally. The problem for Gladiators is that they don't really have the nano boost built up because Lastro's come under so much fire coming through from Outlaw's side that he hasn't been able to sit back and build the nano up when Dante is taking damage, and as a result, Outlaws will have it up while Gladiators don't, and they're the ones that need the initiation.
Yeah, they already have to save Dante with the Suzu, but it's not even enough to save him. I mean, Outlaw is just pressuring him out, just getting that damage onto him early and removing him from the fight. I mean, that's just too much damage for your Winston to be taking in the current situation.
Oh, Yaki gets found out as well, and Gladiators, without that Winston, they just have to go for the full reset. Lastro, because it was Dante who was taking so much fire, hasn't got the nano balls built up again. Gladiators this time having to rotate all the way around the side of point and rely on Kevster being the one to open the way for them.
Kevster with that pulse bomb, does it connect? No, he unfortunately misses, and because of that, Pelican on to Lastro gets that kill. Yaki's forced to use that EMP, so they do get Shu, but this point is still ticking in favor of the Houston Outlaws. Kitsune rush from Babel, but at the same time, Violet has used that Brigitte ultimate. Eventually, Dante does find him, though, as Pelican just trying to find that primal rage in the copied Echo form, but Dante pressures him off of that point. However, Outlaws are still in this fight. They still have this point under the control, and they're still here with a Fearless ultimate to stall it out to 99, but they don't even worry about the stall because Happy connects onto Kevster in that Tracer duel as Fearless is just finding this backline, juggling them all the way back to their own spawn, and what a dominant round one for the Outlaws.
We said we were concerned when we saw it was the Winston mirror matchup coming through, and the concern was there and valid. Houston Outlaws able to just pull apart Los Angeles Gladiators every single time before those fights began. So much pressure coming through onto Dante, so he just wasn't able to build the space for Kevster and Yaki to be able to try and bite into Houston Outlaws backline. Now as we head over to Sanctum, however, you can move away from the Winston. This is what we're expecting to see coming through from the Gladiators, right? Dante going onto the Junker Queen, you're going to be able to react incredibly quickly to when Outlaws plays aggressive dive, just brawling into Outlaws backline when Fearless is chunking down Gladiators.
We'll have to see if it works. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you know, we've seen so much of this Tracer's Sombra so far. It's been very, very strong in the meta, but Pelican, in fact, going to lock towards that Genji. So a little bit of variation over here, but the Gladiators locking a Soldier, being able to just run all the way around, take that rotate for Houston Outlaws' backline. They're trying to find Shu. That is the target of this rotation. They go incredibly deep. Dante is hit with the anti-grenade, though, so it should stop them for just a second, but Lastro was slept as well, so Outlaws doing a great job disengaging it, throwing that sleep dart in to stop the push again. Another anti-grenade into Dante. They just keep connecting full onto the Los Angeles Gladiators, but it's actually them that come out on top. Kevster connects onto Fearless, and the sleep dart onto Dante again. He's just taking every cooldown from Shu, but it does not result in the Outlaws winning the fight. In fact, the Gladiators will win the first one.
Yeah, it looks a little bit dicey, right, when LA Gladiators are able to run into that side room. The problem for Houston Outlaws is that they have to push in on Dante, who's going to just use that Carnage on cooldown to connect onto all of the members of Outlaws. If they try and pressure LA Gladiators, and Last will be able to take Happy down early into the fight as well. So Outlaws aren't going to be able to use something like a hack to push Gladiators off just using this chokehold the way we saw that last fight go. Using the side room, using the close engagement, forcing them into the Junker Queen damage.
Gladiators just sitting at the choke. Dante ready to rotate with Yaki, and this is their time to go. They already get that Jagged Blade onto the Winston of Fearless, and Kevster opts to just wait, trying to do a little bit of a punch onto the Outlaws, but actually, in fact, rotates back towards team's incoming Junker Queen ultimate from Dante, but Pelican finds two, gets Kevster, finds Yaki with that Nano Boost, doesn't even have to use a blade. That's what a lot of these really amazing Genji players do well, is just not use the blade, just Nano Boost damage, find those kills, and the Outlaws will surely flip this point.
Yeah, as a result of not using that blade, it is a little bit of a slower fight, so Gladiators are able to stall to nearly 50%. But like you said, they are going to be going up against that blade and EMP in the next engagement, and that is going to put a magnifying glass on Lastro's sound barrier. If he uses it too early, it's going to get stripped away by the EMP, but if Pelican uses the blade and the EMP when the sound barrier comes through, Glad still lose the fight.
Happy's ready for it. There's that EMP, like you mentioned, just connects onto everybody of the Los Angeles Gladiators. Fearless actually finds Yaki through it. However, you know, the Gladiators aren't out of this just yet. They do have Kevster over the back with attack visor, but he's jumped on by Fearless. Just finds him with the Primal Rage. Can also look for that Lucio, and Outlaws, that's already one successful hold for them so far.
Pelican still holding onto the blade as well in this next engagement. Kev's now off of the Soldier. He's not going to get immediate access to those side lane angles to pressure Atlas as they come through the choke. Instead, he's onto the Tracer. He knows he has to be the one that goes through the chokes, infiltrates the backline, and forces Shu and Violet to turn around, thus pulling Atlas' attention to their backline and away from the frontline brawl that Gladiators are trying to get back into motion.
Actually just rotate all the way around the point, trying not to focus on it, just looking for those early picks with the Death Blossom of Yaki, but Pelican with that blade is ready and reeling to go. Lastro and Dante are also hit that by the anti-grenade, so they can't get fully healed. Pelican pops the blade out, but doesn't find a target immediately until Lastro shows his face towards the point, so they get the Lucio player of the Los Angeles Gladiators. They also pop that Kitsune Rush, and surely they'll find the pickoffs here on the Los Angeles Gladiators. The hack comes through onto Yaki. They actually don't want to pressure too far, so good disengage by the Gladiators.
Gladiators not able to pressure that rush, though. Yaki would have been able to use the Death Blossom, but they're all stuffed up towards that side lane. No one can get onto point. As a result, they will have the Death Blossom now. Yaki has to use the Ray Form, however, goes incredibly low. Won't have it to infiltrate into a position to use the Death Blossom, and has to now use the TP to be able to contest the members of Outlaws in the backline, but he gets slapped! He's now going to be able to use that Death, connects onto one before he goes down, but we're in overtime, and Gladiators cannot afford to lose any more members.
No, they cannot. I mean, Yaki tried his best with that Death Blossom out of the Sleep Dart, but Dante commits his ultimate. In fact, falls all the way back as Happy's forced out of the fight temporarily. Fearless goes incredibly low, but the peel is here for the Glads until Lastro falls to Happy, and Pelican just kind of still alive, 1 HP over the top, eventually falls to Kevster, but Babel already gone as well. Yaki is here with Kevster, and you never want to count these guys out, especially Kevster, but he's in a 1 versus 3 on the point against the Sombra, Kariko, and Anna. Yeah, eventually he falls, and the Outlaws, amazing map number 1, they win it.
Yeah, it looked a lot cleaner, I have to say, from the Gladiators when they moved away from the mirror and they started just running the Junker Queen, something that's their comfort pick rather than trying to match Outlaws in a game of chess, essentially, right? And we know Fearless is just one of the best, if not the best, Winstons in the world. Shu and Violet more than capable of being able to keep him content and happy. So seeing Dante move away from that Winston allowed not just Dante to be able to survive a lot longer, but also Lastro and Babel to be able to get a lot more effective utilities connecting onto their members, and then that has the domino effect of allowing Kevster and Yaki a little bit more room to be able to roam. So hopefully moving forward, Gladiators are going to take what they learned on the first 2 control maps, and they're not going to mirror this Winston dive anymore.
Yeah, I think that they obviously, like you mentioned, probably don't want to mirror that Winston dive, but at the same time, you might have to in the current meta, so they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, kind of like in Season 2 of Overwatch League when people, didn't know if they wanted to run the full tank composition versus, a lot of Pharah, Widowmaker, a lot of those DPS characters. But on the next map, we'll see if they attempt to mirror the Outlaws. The next map is going to be Hollywood, but before then, we're going to a break, so we'll be right back for Hollywood.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Turn it way up. Turn it way up.
Crank that volume, turn it way up. Way up.
Welcome back, everybody. We have the phenomenal matchup between the Houston Outlaws and the Los Angeles Gladiators. So far, the Outlaws have gotten the best of the Gladiators in map number 1, but there's still more maps to be played, and that next map is going to be Hollywood, Mark.
It's really ironic. I think that a lot of people are expecting LA Gladiators to come in with a comfort pick composition of things like this Ramatra, and that they would be able to find a lot of power over Outlaws in that way. And it's actually Houston Outlaws who turned the table off of Nepal, coming in with their comfort picks of Pelican on that Genji, who were just able to absolutely dominate and shred through that Junker Queen composition that Gladiators tried to roll on Sanctum. And moving into Hollywood, having Yaki taken out and Kai coming in, I'm expecting LA Gladiators to be running this full placement composition so that when the dive comes out, you have things like the Ash Coach Gun. You're going to be able to have a Brigida Flail as well to connect onto the Winston, who's trying to dive onto Cafe, given the fact that Gladiators are going to be playing on the defense first of all. They have to be able to survive this initial dive burst coming through from Outlaws.
And we also have to bear in mind Kai got subbed in, so yeah, probably going to be playing some of that Ash. Moxie, do you like that composition where we see that Ash, especially when there's no Kariko on the field?
Well, yeah, you know I love it, right? Especially if you want to be playing this high ground on Cafe, you know it's prime territory for the Winston to try to dive onto, because not only does it force off your DPS from trying to chunk down a squishy as they enter onto that point, it also a lot of the time pushes things like that Ana out of line of sight of their tank. What I'm more concerned about is the fact that Dante is again going to be mirroring this Winston. Kevster is going to have absolute impeccable follow through as well, given the fact that Kai is going to be on the Ash. His position is going to be a lot more static, so he's not going to be able to follow freely up on the targets that Dante is able to isolate down.
Maybe Outlaws are aware of it, though. They're running that Kariko to potentially use the Suzu as the dynamite comes through. Gladiators is playing back. The Outlaws want to rotate all the way around while Happy sets up his flank in that back of the Cafe, while the Outlaws fake like they're rotating back of the alley. In fact, they actually want to do so in its entirety to set up their dive on that back line, but Violet already loses his life. Shu does trade it back, so Kai falls, and the rest of the Outlaws have to rotate around this point, around Shu, because he is the only support in this fight, but a quick swift step away should let him keep his own life and still pocket Fearless as the Gladiators try to sustain, but they do not keep Dante alive, and that should just give Fearless the opportunity to just run back into Lastro and Babel, who had to fall back.
Yeah, Outlaws rotations around back alley is absolutely perfect. Like you said, they're running the Kiriko, they're expecting the Ash to come through to be able to Suzu things like the Dynamite. They also know that they can't just outright dive onto Cafe because they're going to be displaced, either by the Ash or the Brigida, so they take that little bit of a longer wraparound, but still collapse onto Kai and take the Ash down. Even though you lose Violet in the rotation, the Lucia's already done their job. You've already got to the point that you want to be standing and fighting onto. You've already been able to funnel Pelican to Dante's front doorstep to be able to take the Winston down. Now we have to see Gladiators hold on to the high ground. Given that Outlaws aren't running the Ana, they've got the Kiriko instead to counter the Ash. They don't have the Nana boost to send on to Fearless to immediately push Gladiators off of this space.
Well, sitting with that Nana boost, ready to go for the Los Angeles Gladiators. The cart's still getting pushed the entire time by the Houston Outlaws, just progressing it through the streets phase and also have a large ult bank to work with, but as do the Gladiators. In fact, Dante did take a lot of damage, so he does have to back out. Kevster with a pulse bomb looking for a target, but knowing that Shu has that Suzu to potentially counter this, a teleport does come through from Pelican onto the high ground, but Dante actually finds the first kill with the Nana boost, and Pelican falls to Babel as well. Kevster also comes back for Fearless, so a pretty solid hold so far for the Glad.
Yeah, good spy check as well. Pinning Happy's location down so the Sombra isn't able to infiltrate past Gladiators and set up a preemptive position for the EMP to allow Outlaws back onto this payload, as this is the place that Gladiators should be able to slow the payload down the most. Having Kai on this high ground uncontested is forcing Outlaws into using a lot of utility just to make their way past the initial choke.
Kai sitting with the pop. Suzu actually utilized, so that beat drop needs to come out from Violet, in which it does. So Kai just sitting over the top, knowing no support ult, drops the Bob into that back line, and it actually connects just well. So Chu eventually falls to Kai with that great Bob placement. And for the Outlaws, it's up to them if they want to commit in the ultimates. Eventually, they're going to lose Violet, who's all the way here in this cafe in the streets phase. Kai does get him. Another team fight loss for the Outlaws.
Yeah, Shu is now going to go on to the Ana. They've identified that the Kiriko is not quite working, that Suzu being used incredibly early just to try and survive that initial pressure coming through from Gladiators on the high ground. It's better that Shu was able to pump out the heals onto Fearless and build the Nano Boost to be able to pressure Kai. As Happy is in position with the EMP, will be able to connect onto the backline of Gladiators, and the immediate follow through from Outlaws is absolutely finite.
Fantastic coordination. Violet, by the way, on the Zenyatta now, like you said. So for the Outlaws, they're just going to keep pushing this car forward. For the Glads, though, Moxie, I mean, they have Primal Rage, will build that Nano Boost, and on the opposite side, Outlaws doing a very similar thing.
Yeah, I mean, Outlaws, though, they have Violet, like you said, on the Zen, and that's the ever so slight difference in these compositions, right? Orb of Discord is going to chunk through Dante, even with Primal. That extra 25% damage that you take up against a full focused team of Outlaws, you're going to get evaporated.
Yep, that's going to be disgusting for the Outlaws with that Discord to be able to pressure out somebody here. But at the same time, they're doing a good job just avoiding that from Violet. And now they go for the dive full onto him. They do have the support, though, in that backline. Pulse Bomb used by Kevster to force Shoot to use that Sleep Dart, but both of them missing those cooldowns. Violet comes back to try to duel Kevster and has the Sombra here to follow up, but the Nano Boost comes back into Violet so he can take this duel, but unfortunately he's not hitting those shots at the current moment, so everybody escapes with their life. In the meantime, now Dante comes through, but eventually will get slept with that Nano Boost. Fearless is Primal Raging in that backline. There's only 4.13 meters left on this payload. The rally is forced because of Fearless being here, but the peel was there for the Gladiators. They take out Fearless, and they're looking for more.
Kevster, able to occupy Shu and Violet for the entirety of that fight still is crucial for Gladiators, because it means that not only is Shu out of line of sight of Fearless, Violet is out of line of sight of Dante, so when he goes for the Primal, he doesn't get discorded. And Gladiators are able to retain that position around the payload. And Outlaws now, they have to build up ultimates. Happy's going to be able to come with an EMP, but you can already see Lastro just swinging that flail around, trying to spy check this Sombra's location.
Looking for him the entire time. You have Violet rotating, trying to get around safely. Doesn't have to worry about a sniper, so it's pretty easy to rotate on the Zenyatta through these angles in the back of that bank. He's actually coming around far side as they actually take a pretty good angle. They want to fight in this open space for the Zenyatta, but the EMP is here on the indoors angle. Pulse Bomb from Kevster connects onto Shu. Fantastic Pulse Bomb from Kevster as Pelican and Happy try to get something moving with this cart. A little bit of a cheeky play from them. But at the same time, you know, Fearless does find Dante. They came back with that peel. Pulse Bomb now on the Lastro, and Pelican in the back line of, or the front line of Houston Outlaws actually make this work. Pelican finds Babel as well. And now they're going to capture out this second point, moving on to third phase.
It's cheeky, but it's effective coming through from Outlaws. It splits Gladiators, it disjoints that composition coming through, and as a result, again, Dante gets split away from his supports. Now he's split away from his entire team, potentially getting staggered, but Outlaws can't actually fully commit, given the fact that Gladiators, all of the rest of the players coming through from that C respawn, will be able to group up and keep Dante in the mix. So he's still going to have the Primal. They've got the Nano Boost as well. Just have to make sure that Happy's EMP doesn't come through first.
Happy with that AMP setting up in that back. He's looking at Lastro specifically to make sure. Actually, he just hits everybody. He hits the Tracer and the Brigitte there. They find Lastro with the dive as well. Perfectly placed onto Lastro. Removes him from the fight immediately. Although you still have Kai, who is now on Sombra on this backside, trying to find something. Does get hacked, and Happy finds him as well. So now the Outlaws in a great spot as the Glads try to soft reset.
Shu's going to have the Nano Boost to be able to match the damage that Dante is able to output. And again, we are going to see the difference being that Orb of Discord just chunking down all of these members of Los Angeles Gladiators the second that the Winston bubble pops.
Violet ready with that Nano to peel for him on that back. On that dive from the Glads. Pulse Bomb did come through from Kevster, and it connects onto Shu. Happy does trade it back with Vel, so both Annas are out of the fight, resulting in Violet not having any peel. But Lastro also falls on the Glad side, and Dante and Kai are all incredibly low, so Dante has to use the Primal Rage. Outlaws are probably just fine with committing that ultimate there, or Dante committing that ultimate there, and they're going to reset.
Yeah, Phyllis holds on to his. Violet's going to have a Transcendence coming through into this next fight. Kai might be able to catch the Zen in that regroup formation. If you can take the Zen out of the mix before the Transcendence can save the team for the EMP, Gladiators might be able to keep this payload in limbo.
Jumps above the high ground, spy checking a little bit there for Kai, who is hacked again. Almost they find the kill on him. In fact, look, you have Fearless diving on him, really wanting to force Kai out of this fight. He has the EMP in that situation, but Fearless has enough HP to eventually fall back, drops down below. Lastro with the rally, keeps his team healthy here. Dante sitting on the front line, but a Transcendence and EMP should result in Dante and Lastro dying there. Kevster also gets slept. What a fantastic sleep dart from Shu. The peel is there, and eventually the Outlaws capture out on Hollywood.
The rubber band from Outlaws, it's so effective. Gladiators, because Kai takes so much pressure when that dive comes through, has to throw in the EMP, knowing it's not just the Winston it's going to connect onto, it's also going to be the squishy members of Outlaws who are sending that Tracer to try and pin the Sombra down as quickly as possible. Unfortunately for Gladiators, when the EMP comes through, they know they have to win the fight. So they double down on it. They throw in the rally. As a result, Outlaws, all they have to do is just disengage and wait. They've got an EMP, they have a Transcendence, they can use the Transcendence and EMP at the exact same time because Gladiators have nothing to be able to A, just aggressively push back onto Outlaws, and B, sustain through a Transcendence because they've already used both support ults.
I mean, in that situation, they just got outplayed by the Outlaws, right? I mean, like you said, they just finally build that Transcendence, they push forward, and on the attacking side, they do have another chance. I mean, to stop them, or to at least have no time on the clock on third point is some sort of win, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Gladiators, like you saw, they did force Houston Outlaws to swap. The Kiriko stayed for point A, and then the second that they had to move towards B, that was where it started having problems. Outlaws now on their defense are going to still be running the Kiriko to try and counteract Kai on this Ashe, but Shu is actually going to still playing that Ana. So you're going to be able to continue to build towards that Nana boost, continue to prop Fearless's aggression up, because the second that Cafe breaks, Gladiators get this 1-1 to point.
Outlaws scouting at the beginning. Happy surely going to go for a little bit of Sombra damage to build up that ult charge, you know, already looking for in the backline. In fact, he's actually just waiting, just scouting for the rest of his team the entire time. Fearless that is a very aggressive angle, building his supports, cooldowns at or ultimates at the same time. He's actually committed the bubble and his jump, so can't exactly escape. Now Happy gets poked out. Violet's still trying to pocket him. This is such an aggressive hold from the Outlaws, and it was working until the sleep dart did come through from Babel to stop Fearless on his tirade, but he's backing all the way up. Shu eventually gets punished, though, because of this aggressive play from the Outlaws, so Gladiators would try to capitalize on it and move towards this point.
So I'm gonna take Violet down, please. This Kiriko is giving me concern. He's still alive, likely to swift step back to his team now, as Pelican is also behind enemy lines at the moment. Kevster knows, he's watching that side angle. He knows that the Tracer has to come through, as Gladiators will try to push Outlaws back now that the recontest is here.
Fearless has to jump towards the high ground, drop down, and incredibly low. The anti-grenade, or the nade from Babel, keeps them safe as well, so they do peel Fearless off. The sleep dart on the Kevster was clean, but nobody was there to follow through onto Shu, and Glads stopped that second recontest from the Outlaws.
Kai, not gonna have a Bob just yet, but still having that scope, being able to pressure Outlaws, as well as make sure that when the dive is committed onto this backline, you can still connect the coach gun, you can still buff it back any follow-up that comes through from Outlaws, and a lot of the times too, if Outlaws try and play aggressively off of that Winston dive, Phyllis gets displaced, and suddenly Pelican and Happy are in a position without a tank, as Gladiators are in a great position right now.
Yeah, Violet a little bit greedy there, but did swift step back with 1 HP, eventually got sniped by Dante, who is starting to come online on Winston, 4 minutes and 40 seconds now. They have a pretty solid time bank in the Streets phase.
Yeah, Gladiators immediately getting to allow Kai that access to the high ground so he can just pressure these members of Outlaws as they come through from the doors. Shu has the nano boost, does get Anthony and goes low, but is able to find the angle onto Fearless, who immediately swarms onto the high ground, and Gladiators are ejected within moments.
Yeah, perfect dive there from the Outlaws on the high ground, and now they're just looking for Dante, who has to use the Primal Ratio if he wants to live, but he's not going to save it for next fight, obviously. Makes a lot of sense. They still have a lot of time on the board.
They're going to have so many options as well to try to deal with this Bob that comes through from Kai to just clear Outlaws off of this payload. You can EMP it, you can sleep it from Shu, just to make sure that Gladiators do not get to use the Ashe ultimate to break that choke that they have to fully commit and overcommit in this next fight, because breaking B is all about ultimate economy.
Yep, they're trying to build results. They do have the nano ready to go. Dante continually just has to worry about the payload, though. The objective is very crucial for the Gladiators to take control. The EMP comes through. Fearless is there with a dive onto Babel, and they also find Lastros to the back line removed. So is Kai, and the Outlaws, fantastic dive from Fearless. The EMP from Happy was perfect as well. The Gladiators, they're still holding in some ultimates, and it's not over yet.
Yeah, really good lockdown coming down onto Babel. Like, they know if the Ana gets pressured, literally the last line of defense is going to be that nano boost coming down onto Dante, so he can just push back onto Outlaws. But the Ana goes down before they're able to find an angle, and as a result, like you said, it's still going to be up, it's still going to be available. However, Outlaws, if they feel pressured, they can literally just drop a Kitsune Rush and supercharge up Pelican's Pulse Bomb.
Going to be terrifying for the Glads to have to worry about. They do move to the high ground. Fearless does jump in, but there's that Kitsune Rush from Violet, like you mentioned. Bob from Kai. Do they sustain through it with Nano onto Lastro? It looks like they lose Kai, but Dante does trade back onto Violet. So because of that, the Outlaws have to back up. They don't have a lot of heals besides Chu here. Kevster also finds Pelican, so slowly but surely the Gladiators work them out of the high ground.
Yeah, really good nano boost coming through from Babel, not onto Dante, to just allow the Winston to be sent into Outlaws backline, onto Lastro. So the Brigida survives the impact of that Kitsune Rush coming through, but Outlaws still making it scrappy. And the payload, as a result, not really getting the distance that Gladiators were hoping to pick up from that fight win.
No, but they do force Fearless to use that Primal Rage, and now they're in a weird situation because Kai also picked Violet off, and Fearless doesn't have a lot of heals until the Nano comes through, and everybody in Outlaws is so low because they're missing that extra support. So Kevster finds down Shu, and now nobody is here to support Fearless with that Nano boost. It was a very scrappy fight for the Outlaws, eventually resulting in them losing members, kind of like in a skirmish situation. So the Gladiators will gladly move on to third point.
Yeah, like you said, it starts off with Outlaws just stalling and making sure Gladiators have even less time moving into point C where they're walking into an EMP, which should be a free fight win for Outlaws. Let's be honest, right? But like you said, Kai finding that pick is absolutely huge. It opens up the fight entirely, and Outlaws will have to win this next engagement with the EMP. The problem is Lastro has the rally. He's going to be able to make sure that he doesn't get connected onto the Sombra ultimate. He can come in with that ultimate to try and just immediately push Outlaws back so they can't use this EMP proactively.
Playing back with Babel in the back of the map towards this gate as Happy tries to set up these EMP. Looks like he notices the support line is a bit disconnected from the front, so he's going to use the EMP on the Dante, and that results in a fantastic follow-up of the Outlaws. Great decision-making from Happy to change his target from that back line to the front line, and Glads are going to have to reset.
Yeah, it's always really unfortunate as supports when you're trying to position around an EMP, because like you said, a lot of the time, the way that you counter an EMP is splitting your forces, but that means no line of sight on the Winston, and Babel did not have the nano boost to immediately be able to save Dante when that aggression was turned onto the front line and off of the back. Now we're going to see a hack come through onto Babel as Kevster was able to take down Violet, and immediately that backline from Outlaws without the Orb of Discord, Dante gets to go aggressive. He doesn't have to worry about having a bubble up to break the Discord Orb. He can break the backline instead.
Yeah, Dante and Kevster, their dive is kind of coming together. You know, Gladiators slowly getting that synergy built in this match, in the very first match of the regular season. Lastro trying to peel off Fearless, but does have the anti on him in that rally, so unfortunately he's going to die, and Pelican connects on that pulse bomb, so a 2K for him in this fight. Bob is still on the point, eventually does take Pelican out, is pressuring the cart, which means the Outlaws can't leave it until the Bob is eventually gone, and now it is.
Well, it's still going to be a better win for Outlaws. Gladiators thought that they had that fight in the bag. They were literally just playing off of staggers, but Kai's Bob does not find the damage it wants to because the hack comes through from Happy. Violet sitting on that Transcendence doesn't even have to worry about a Pulse Bomb. Fading it out early. Gladiators, they used up all of their fights firing Primal.
That's going to be a big deal in this fight. Now Kevster tries to pressure the high ground, drops down to the rest of his team, though. Notices the Tracer over here also came with the Zenyatta, but Kai opening pick onto Pelican and then onto Violet. Nice shots from Kai and cheeky angles from him on the left doorway. Now the Primal is used from Fearless just to stall, to wait for Violet to come back with the Transcendence, but there's only 2 meters left. Kai has a fantastic off angle to look for this back line. Connects onto Happy. That's 3 in this fight for him, but Lastro does fall. Now Pelican is trying to pressure Kai on that left side flank, and is actually doing a great job. Kai has to back out. Coach Gun to main to try to get some support, but maybe he's done enough on the back line until that peel. The sleep dart onto Pelican shuts that down until the dynamite is here, but another sleep dart on the other end. A shoe connects onto Kai and Babel, both fall.
LA Gladiators have one more chance. They cannot afford to get staggered out, and Pelican is looking for it! Lastro falls! Gladiators going to be down one support if they can even connect the tap onto this payload to activate that overtime, and it's all going to come in the form of Kevster. He's so close to the pulse bomb. He's going to have to be the one alongside Dante that makes the play.
Happy switches back to Ash, noticing how there's no Kariko, so they can Suzu for free. Happy also finds Kevster, so that pulse bomb is removed, no longer a factor in this fight. The nano boost onto both Winstons, though, on this front line just gives Dante a bit more room to work with. Meanwhile, the Glad still waiting for Kevster because of the overtime spawns, but eventually Kai's Bob runs out. Dante incredibly low without his bubble now. Pelican chases him down. Lastro's here with the rally on the cart, so that stings for a bit, but the pulse bomb is there from Kevster on the Fearless, so that is one, and he's still around the cart, kind of juggling it. Finds Shu. No way could they do this. The dynamite is here on the back line. If Pelican equalizes it, it could be extremely detrimental for the Glads, but they do lose Lastro. Kevster trying to put his team on his back, but is eventually shut down. In the Outlaws, all they have to worry about now is Dante, so they take this map going up 2-0.
It looked so good from Gladiators, right? It looked so good when Kai comes in and connects one headshot, two headshots, and then Pelican shows up. And Pelican is just playing absolutely stellar, keeping Kai's attention purely focused on the Tracer, so he's not able to pick on the squishies, currently guarding that payload, not able to create that focus on the front line that allowed LA Gladiators to be able to move forward. And having Pelican still surviving, even though he does get hit by Babel with that sleep dart, he's done more than enough. He's been able to allow the Outlaws with their forward respawns time to be able to regroup and push back on the members of Gladiators, who, knowing that they were going up against that Zen, knowing that they were going up against that Orb of Discord, didn't want to have to make their way through main again, because the chances of one of them getting picked off mid-rotation when Discord Orb is in play and you're not running a Lucio in your backline rise drastically.
Yeah, that's just too much damage to deal with. And, you know, name a better duo than also for the Los Angeles Gladiators side to really rely on Kevster to carry. He almost pulled it out, but unfortunately not. However, series ain't over yet. You know, it's the same thing in the Pro-Am. They can still come back and make this a 5-mapper. So we'll have to see on Shambali Monastery, which will be our next map after a short break.
4v5. Oh, not quite so much anymore. Kevster dishing out the damage.
This is giving me vibes of Florida against the Atlanta Rain.
What is dirty?
Rough return here, just kind of getting bullied. Yeah, that this is
Maybe goodbye to the rest of your team, Decay, because Lastro's on the field. Nano Zen just to keep him alive. Roy trying to keep him alive. Nitron, oh boy, punched into oncoming traffic. Dante shuts him down.
Welcome back, everybody, to the matchup between the Los Angeles Gladiators and the Houston Outlaws, in which the Outlaws are up 2-0, so they're confident, don't want to make any subs. Meanwhile, for the Los Angeles Gladiators, Babel is out, Astro is in, and then Kai out, Yaki in.
There's two Astros. Like, my English degree is trying to figure out what would, like, those two like Astros together, two apostrophes, what would that make?
Oh, what would it make, Moxie?
I don't know. I guess it would make one pair of speech bubbles. Or I guess a half a pair of speech bubbles. So up next is Shambali Monastery, and you do not want to attack this map by halves. You really have to fully commit if you want to be able to full push on this map. Just with how long those line of sights are, this is where we can potentially see things like that Ramatra come through, challenging that dive. I hope that it's not going to be mirror dive coming through from Gladiators. Like, they've looked incredibly strong. Their performance in Hollywood was incredibly strong, especially in that overtime play where Kevster really does make it seem like Gladiators are going to be able to pull the fight away. But in my opinion, where they're weakest is the Winston mirror matchup.
Right. I agree. I mean, that's probably why we're going to see the Gladiators mocked in the situation walk the Ramatra.
I'm more than happy with this composition. Like, Dante's going to be on that Ramatra, able to continue to pressure out all of these players from Outlaws as they walk out from spawn. You're going to have Yaki going onto the Mei as well. So if Outlaws try and rotate up staircase to remove the high ground angle for Gladiators, you're going to be able to wall them off. If they try and go main, you're still going to potentially be able to catch Fearless out of position. Kevster on the Soldier, we already saw it. On Sangsum, he's going to be on an off angle, just trying to continue to pressure the backline from Outlaws, so we could potentially actually see, not the Lifeweaver, I don't think, but sure, if he feels pressure enough, maybe going on to something like that Moira, because he knows that the second Fearless is diving that backline, he's open and vulnerable.
I mean, no team has tried it yet, Moxie, but, you know, speaking about the Lifer real quick, maybe you could do like a quick, you know, Widowmaker onto the pedal platform, you know, one shot out of spawn. That could be a thing that we see in the future, but, you know, like you mentioned, they switch off of that, go to that Moira Lucio. They have a bit more mobile of a composition. They're just going to wait for Pelican to dive in, and they'll have Fearless there as well with that follow-up. But Outlaws just want to stop this payload right now. Lastro is hacked, but is together with the rest of his team, but they're continually giving up space, so this cart is getting spaced the entire time.
Yeah, they've given up the space where the Maywall can potentially just isolate everyone out. Now you can walk around it, as Immortality Field has to come out so early from Gladiators. They're able to take Fearless down before the dive can fully come through from Outlaws, and this should be a retreat, but when she was on the Moira, you're still going to make it expensive on Gladiators side. You're still looking to try and find a trade.
Yeah, they try to, but cannot, unfortunately. Now they have a minute off the clock, so great hold so far for the Glads, and built up a good amount of ults in this next fight. Lastro coming up with the Baptiste Amplification Matrix, and Astro with that beat drop.
Yeah, Gladiators identifying that there's no Tracer in the mix, so when the dive comes through from Outlaws, there's not going to be a side angle that they have to worry about. It's just going to be the players in front of them. So being able to just brawl back onto Outlaws, waiting for this team to make that first move and pushing back into this Ram and Mei to punish that lack of mobility from Outlaws is perfect, and it's something that they can continue to do.
Yeah, happy waiting for that dive, but it's a bit separate, it's a bit distant. However, the hack comes through from Lastro. Eventually he's able to get the Amplification Matrix. It was too far of a dive for the Outlaws, so they have to separate for now. Eventually the Coalescence falls out. Lastro's beat drop as well, so they kind of layered support ultimates there for the Gladiators. Violet's going to build that beat drop and they're able to come back through it. Another hack onto Lastro. Happy to do a job just pressuring Lastro up, but Lastro is well aware of that situation, so he tries the Immortality Field, but gets booped by both Violet and Fearless on the front line after Violet drops the beat. And even though Dante does trade Fearless, he's down too many members on his team. Pelican as well layers on that Death Blossom to ensure a team fight victory.
Yeah, Outlaws still going to have ultimates to be able to snowball into this next fight as well. Pelican just wanting to clean up, given that Gladiators were able to pull back their match against Outlaws on the back of Dante on this Ramatra. Happy's going to be waiting in position for all of Gladiators to fall from the high ground to the low to contest that payload. And they don't really have the means of being able to spy check him out either. They're not running a Diva, they're not running a Brigida, so Happy is entirely unnoticed.
It lands that EMP. Lastro's gone. Happy in the follow through a Pelican and Fearless is the Primal Rage. It's just Kevster who's flying into space because he's being pummeled by this Winston, but eventually does fall even with that tactical visor. Outlaws connecting with that checkpoint on first point.
Now, Dante's going to have an Annihilation, but Gladiators, to be honest, they're just going to have to use it as a sort of reset point to be able to scale ground away from Outlaws. Given that Violet is running on that Lucio, you're going to be able to disengage it and immediately wait for it to burn out before coming back in. The rubber banding from Outlaws this game today has been absolutely on point, and I have more than enough confidence they're going to be able to do the same on Annihilation this next fight.
Ready to go. The Gladiators through that top window, drop down, still have that Annihilation. Now they pop it. It eventually is onto that Coalescencing Moira, but eventually fades out because of those changes where Moira can fade while Coalescencing. And in fact, not a lot of kills yet until Kevster and Yaki follow through into that back line, and eventually the Outlaws do take an L here and reset.
Really good Annihilation actually coming through from Dante to make sure that Outlaws don't get to rotate into that small cavern where they're going to be able to wait Annihilation out and then rubber band back in. Shu with that Coalescence just trying to pressure Dante down, but Fearless goes down and suddenly Outlaws just have their back quite literally against the wall. As Gladiators sitting on ultimates, going to have a really good bird's eye view onto this next fight, forcing Outlaws to take the longer wraparound.
Outlaws now going towards that coast like you mentioned, but they are met here by the Glads and they immediately pump in that Death Blossom by Yaki, but it is disengaged quite successfully for the Houston Outlaws. Amplification Matrix, though, on this coast, there's not a lot of cover here, so this is a great Ant Matrix from Lastro, although they do have to layer on Beat Drop. Yaki does eventually find Pelican to rotate. Unfortunately for the Outlaws, is not entirely successful, but they still get so many ults out of the Gladiator.
Yeah, Gladiators really wanting to hold on to this window space, throwing so many ultimates, again layering Sound Barrier and Ant Matrix so that Gladiators don't immediately get forced to disengage and lose any of that impact of the BAP ultimate, as Outlaws going to be coming into this next fight with so much control, and Gladiators just have to engage aggressively before Outlaws get that time to be able to set them in motion.
I mean, I like that. A very fast engage for them trying to force ultimates out of the Outlaws. It matters if the Outlaws use more than just that coalescence, but it looks like they're smart enough to hold on to it, and they only use a coal.
Yeah, that's huge from Outlaws, right? Like you said, Gladiators are trying to force Outlaws into potentially not losing the fight, but losing enough members that they have to throw ultimates in to make up for the absence of numbers. And it doesn't happen. Shu's Coalescence is all Outlaws need to be able to win. And as a result, Death Blossom's there, EMP's there, Primal's there, and Sound Barrier. Gladiators going to have to try and find an early pick to be able to keep control of this initial corner. At least they're playing into Yaki on the Reaper. He's going to be super close to be able to land those shotguns.
Happy with the EMP, connects onto Lastro. Let's see if he can find the kill before the Immortality field is here. He can't, but Lastro also does fall because Violet in that front line also have to beat drop. Yaki eventually came back for the field. Dante doing a great job, still alive somehow, some way with the block, but eventually Fearless finds him with the Primal Rage. Violet also connects onto Kevster, so eventually Outlaws will capture this point unless Yaki can pull off a heroic play with the Death Blossom, finds one. Violet is gone. He also has Funny Astro here, so there's heals here. Yaki onto Fearless too, and nice job from Yaki, a hero play to stop the Outlaws.
Yeah, Death Blossom, so impactful, and Houston Outlaws are only going to have 13 seconds. They're going to go Fearless onto that Doomfist just to be able to keep this payload in contest. Happy in that backline, already in position to be able to translocate on top of it and potentially hack out one of these members of Gladiators.
Looking for that hack. At the same time, Pelican with the Death Blossom fades towards that cart. Now drops the Death Blossom into the Ant Matrix, but it's peeled for. Amazing job from the Gladiators. Dante in the back line of Lastro. Eventually the Coalescence does come from Shu, but it might be too little too late. And Lastro, I don't know how he lived through both of those team fights, manages to stop the Houston Outlaws in the Streets phase.
I mean, I'll answer that question immediately, Dustin. It's Dante. Dante comes in on the Zarya to be able to bubble the members of LA Gladiators so that even under so much pressure coming through from Outlaws on the front line, Gladiators don't actually feel the pressure. They don't feel the heat. They don't have to step off the payload, thus allowing Outlaws to win the fight in spirit. Not finding the kills, but being able to push the payload even further so that their time bank extends. Really good, smart plays coming through from LA Gladiators. And that was something that we talked about before the series probably began. Gladiators' strength is their flexibility. Now we're starting to see it.
They have, like you mentioned, that flexibility of Dante. You know, sure, at times, you called it out earlier, Dante really trying to practice a lot of his Winston to match up against the likes of Fearless. But, you know, I don't think Fearless, you know, as good of a player as he is, can match Dante on either the Zarya or their Ramantra.
Yeah, like we wanted to see Dante playing to his strengths. He has been such an amazing off-tank player, and now we're really getting to see him thrive. For Gladiators, as Outlaws going to be playing on that attack. However, we can get to see this coalescence coming through from Zhu using that fade, trying to keep himself alive, drops the heal bubble, and immediately gets hunted down by Yaki, who saw the Mora use the fade, knew it was on cooldown, knew that Outlaws could turn the tide with that ultimate, and make sure that it's off the table.
Yaki for sure has a shout at one of our best Reaper players. I mean, so far, that kill onto the Coalescence and also a Death Blossom to save the Los Angeles Gladiators. Kevs are going for a quick snipe shot and then swaps back to Tracer. So pretty much the same comp here for the Glads. Meanwhile, Outlaws, similar situation.
Kevster on that Tracer. Dante, though, sticking with the Zarya. They've seen how effective it was in being able to peel away that follow-up aggression coming through from Outlaws off of a successful dive. And they're deciding to fully commit to it out of the gates. And as a result, the payload continues to move.
Yeah, Zarya has been played a lot, I know, in practice and then also in a few games so far as Gladiators try to push forward into that left side, force Outlaws back. And Outlaws are just giving a ton of space right now. They're waiting for the perfect fight. They're just giving so much space to the Gladiators and getting that cart pressure already down to this ramp.
I mean, the question for Outlaws is how do you engage? You can't really rely on Happy Sombra because Dante's is going to bubble and cleanse it. Likewise, if Fearless fully commits in, you're going straight into a Reaper and a Zarya who's pretty charged up on that beam.
Yeah, I mean, they try to get Lastro, but like you mentioned, there's too much peel there with the bubbles and also Funny Astral there, and then also the Immortality field, so Fearless eventually falls. Tuzu was used earlier from Violet, now it's just him here in this fight, although Shu does find Yaki. Pelicans trying to make this fight continually work for them, and in fact, they nano boost Pelican, so Dante, a little bit over aggressive, is left without his team. Shu also finds Funny Astro, so Outlaws last second stop Gladiators push.
Yeah, Dante goes down, so Happy gets to push aggressively onto the retreating members of Gladiators' backline, and Lastro gets staggered out too. This is crucial for Outlaws because now Happy is going to be able to hit that EMP timing at the same time as Lastro comes in with Ant Matrix, and you can cancel it immediately.
Was with the MP, but Violet, the pickoff, no way. That's why Kuriko is such a phenomenal hero, just to get those pickoffs with the kunai. It's an amazing shot from him, and Outlaws just have to wait for that respawn.
Dante not really able to find the Graviton charge either because you're not being faced aggressively by Outlaws. Everyone from Outlaws jumping onto the backline. As a result, he's not getting the damage necessary as that's the follow-through necessary. EMP comes through from Happy, and it's just an absolute bomb for Pelican.
Pelican on the card trying to duel Kevster, forces recalls out on both sides. Fearless will eventually respawn as Dante's still in this fight, so the Gladiators want to continue to make this a scrappy one. Full spawn for Pelican still available. I'm sure Dante has to be aware with that. With his bubbles, make sure to save at least one of them for that full spawn as that continued bunch is committed from Violet, forces the beat drop from Lastro. So now no more support ultimates as Shu is coming up onto that nano as well as Happy on this cart, kind of just playing around the left side flank. Pelican still holding on to the full spawn, now drops it, but does not connect on anybody as Fearless tries to Primal Rage and find value, but it's Dante, even through those ultimates, get a kill, and also got this cart to the checkpoint.
No ultimates coming through from Gladiators, and as a result, they're going to have the Graviton to lock Violet in position. Getting that kill on the Kiriko is so crucial because you deny that Suzu, which keeps Kevster in check when the Pulse Bomb tries to attach onto one of these squishies. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see Dante just fully commit the ultimate to be able to find that one pick onto the backline.
Glads are looking good at the moment, Moxie. I mean, they built those 4 ultimates. Outlaws have, what, just a Nano Boost and EMP coming up? I mean, Outlaws, I think you're going to mention, just happy to just be able to get this big EMP, and that's their only opening.
Yeah, that EMP, like you said, is the opening. The next opening for this fight should be that Nano Boost from Shu onto Fearless, but a Nano Boosted Winston is still going straight in to a bubbled Reaper mid-Death Blossom.
Here's that bubble already. One used. Maybe he's going to hold on a little bit. The hack comes through. Grab concert with the peel, actually. It's a 3-man grab. Pelican is there. Also, Kevster, I think, dropped in the pulse bomb, but Dante finds Violet in the grab, too. Fearless does trade back Dante. If Shu can live, that would be the catalyst for the Outlaws to still come back in this fight, but Kevster wants to stop it. It's Shu again with the sleep dart, dealing with this Lucio as well. A one-man army on the left flank, still alive, though. It also kills Kevster. Oh, my God. How did he just 1v2 in that situation and eventually die? Happy gets onto Astro. Here comes the amplification matrix. Yaki pushing that payload, though, trying to push it at the very end. The hack comes through. Now he can Death Blossom on this card. Eventually, the Suzu's gone. Yaki knows this, so he drops the Death Blossom with the bubble, and there's nothing here to stop it besides that Winston bubble. Eventually, the Kitsune Rush is here. Yaki still pressuring out, but Happy and the rest of the Outlaws on this point with that Kitsune Rush have enough damage to stop Gladiators with 0.33 meters left.
Okay, Shu and Happy. Jeez! Shu being able to win that duel against Kevster and Funny Astro, even though he does go down in the process, he still finds the pick, right? He still delays Gladiators from being able to push that payload. And Gladiators, they thought that was their fight. They thought that there was literally their victory lap. And now they have a sound barrier. They've got 1 minute 28 seconds left. They're not going to be able to build up into Graviton again. Else can just chain cycle ultimates and keep Gladiators from being able to push back.
Yeah, there's that hack, and knowing that Astro tried to beat drop, but also the bubble from Fearless zoned out Astro, so the beat could not hit him. And everybody is still quite healthy on the Outlaws. All they have to worry about is a potential C9 here for the Gladiators, but they eventually clean them up.
Yeah, Gladiators unfortunately just forced to take fast fights and burn as many ultimates from Outlaws' pockets as possible. They're still going to be walking into a Nano Boost, they're still going to be walking into a Pulse Bomb, but at least the Primal Reach, that stall potential in a fight, is going to be removed. And as we head towards overtime, that's one thing Gladiators cannot allow to cycle back up again.
Do have the Nano. Pelican with the Pulse Bomb also available, but they are doing a great job playing this choke, just making sure their dive lands perfectly onto Lastro. The hack did come through, but the bubble is there onto Lastro, although now you got a Nano Boost to Winston, so the Immortality Field should get deleted ASAP, and eventually it is. They lose Yaki. Dante falls too. I mean, 30 seconds now left. Gladiators in a bit of a pickle.
They're going to have to go past this window as well. They don't have enough time to be able to look for the full rotation. And Outlaws, they know this. They're literally just sending Happy to intercept and find these answering hacks onto Gladiators to pull out either that Immortality Field so early or find just a normal pick, as Gladiators have one shot, one chance, and they're doing it without a grab.
Yeah, we'll see who touches. It's more than likely going to be Kevster forcing the overtime to begin. Outlaws now sitting at the back, Happy with an EMP. Could be huge, but in fact, they just kill Astro after the Immortality Field couldn't even save him, so backline gone. Gladiators don't even get a clean dive off here, or a clean fight in this situation, and Outlaws want to stop this right here. Right now, Kevster, in fact, just leaves his PC at the very end, and the Outlaws will win on Shambali Monastery to win 3-0 over the Gladiators.
It looked a lot better for Gladiators. It looked a lot cleaner when we saw them come through on the Zarya. The problem is that they had to cycle into those ultimates. The second that Outlaws started clocking onto that, they had a lot of real good fight initiation ultimates, right? They had the EMP, they had the Nano Boost, the Primal to be able to stall through, and that isn't really coming through from the rest of the members when Gladiators lose that momentum on B.
I think this makes sense why so far it just seems like the Outlaws have that talent that people always mentioned, Moxie. I mean, you always mentioned Shu being one of the best Annas, really showing up in the clutch when it mattered most. At the very end of Shambali Monastery, it looked like Gladiators could pull it through, but fight after fight, even though they had a massive time bank to work with, they could not capitalize over that mechanical diff and also team diff for the side of the Outlaws.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it perfectly, right? Gladiators thought that they had some of those fights in the bag. They were like, okay, well, we only have to clean up one Anna. How hard is that going to be? Apparently very. Apparently,
yeah.
You know what? It's just straight up impossible because Shu is able to live. He's able to find that sleep dart onto Kevster, and then that actually pulls Funny Astro in to have to peel for the Tracer. He gets hit immediately by the anti-nade, has to allow the kill to come through, and as a result, Shu just gets to continue to stall so the regroup can come out from Houston Outlaws, and Gladiators, thinking they had it in the bag already, had thrown in so many ultimates. Their ultimate economy just never really managed to fully recover after that fight.
It didn't, and for the Outlaws, they got to feel very good about that, and also about their players, because one of them obviously gets the player of the match after that. And for the Outlaws, that has to be coming up in a sec. We'll see who it is. It's going to be Happy. Happy getting your player of the match. Fantastic hacks. You called it earlier, Moxie. His positioning was so good to find those hacks. Also playing Tracer on a map too. I mean, phenomenal rotations from him. People might say Shu robbed and all this sort of stuff, but the Outlaws together as a team, as a cohesive unit, really came together.
I mean, Happy was so effective, as well as being able to identify when it was safe to aggressively push. Like when you're going up against Azari, who just always has the bubbles, as well as having to just burn through Immortality Field from Lastro's side as well, that Sombra is always going to struggle. But Happy did such a good job of being able to recognize when those bubbles were removed and when the Zarya was removed, when that avenue of peel was gone, moving from just keeping everyone contested to hunting down those picks relentlessly.
Wait, Moxie, I like this from Happy. I mean, those deaths, 1.5 per 10. I mean, that's super good right on Sombra. We see so many of the Sombra players just get a little too greedy and eventually it cost them their life. But Happy, you know, even though a lot of people may not think, oh, he's like not that star player, oh, he's this, oh, he's that, he's done a great job for this Outlaws team to slot in on that Sombra role to give him that edge.
Yeah, again, identifying the composition he's playing into. There is not a lot of spy check potential coming through, especially on Shambali. So Happy gets to set up and just play for those stealths, for those hacks to really be so impactful. So many times you saw that Gladiators had to throw in the Immortality Field because Lastro is hacked before a fight can properly begin. And the second that that lamp is removed, that was when the true dive came through. It was a little bit of a tease, a little bit of poke pressure, and then the full commitment on the fight.
Fantastic work from the Outlaws, 3-0 Gladiators. Although they beat them in the Pro-Am, Glad's fall today. We're going to do a short break. We have to see what our analysts in the desk have to say about that match.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Turn it way up. Turn it way up.
Crank that volume, turn it way up. Way up.
Welcome back, everyone. And we're seeing Fearless in action here. Being followed here close, of course, by his support duo. And yeah, tanks, man.
We love
the name
tanks.
of the game. We love them. Get your tank bundle now. They're on sale as we speak, and they feature Ramatra, Doomfist, and Sigma, and of course also a weapon charm. I love the charms in game. Getting charms in your favorite team skins. Yes.
Yes.
More of that.
You gotta represent.
All of it. Exactly. Gotta represent in game. We're all about that. Now, speaking of representing, Houston Outlaws here, Jake. Almost no one on this desk is surprised about the victory of the Houston Outlaws.
No one less than me, for sure.
But I mean, Houston looked good. We expected both teams to rock up and impress us, dazzle us, but it was Houston running away with it in a dominant fashion.
Yeah, I will give Gladi some credit that, maps 2 and 3, they made it reasonably close. But I think what we saw here is that this is a Winston meta, and Outlaws able to force their style, able to have so much impact, especially Fearless. But also, I want to really highlight those supports. I want to highlight Shu and Violet, 2 players. You got to consider them potentially best in class. I would call Shu clearly with Ana, best in the world, and Violet as well looks insanely sharp on this Kiriko. Able to play both of these often in this series. Shu as well, no slouch on the Kiriko, able to pick up the frag. So these 2 guys were just so consistent in producing, which really matters a lot in the Sombra Tracer comp. You need your supports to be fragging. You need them to be contributing. Sombra Tracer are pulling all the aggro, and you need 2 strong backliners who can actually capitalize on the space that's being created. So many times we saw Shu and Violet getting into the mix, fighting it out together with really impressive synergy. I think that's going to be a strength for them all season long.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to break it down a little bit more in depth. We're going to look at some details here, Jonathan, because on map number 1, adaptation from the Houston Outlaws was the name of the game, and you have something to show us there.
I really hate doing it. I mean, I was ready to celebrate the Gladiators, but I gotta go.
Okay, Johnny.
I'll go commend the Houston Outlaws. I get it. All right, this one just for you, Jake. So. We're going to take a look at map 1 here, how Houston Outlaws closed it out. They're up 1-0, of course, when it comes to the round. But then we see this odd composition. I got a pen now, guys. I got a pen, all right? I'm very excited about this.
Great.
We're seeing the Gladiators. They're playing this Reaper and Junker Queen composition. So they want to fight close, right? They want to take these close quarters, and also they're playing the Lucio as well. So that's really going to help out that composition. They take this fight against Fearless playing this Winston. Not the best of time in these close corridors, so if we just play this out, we can actually see the Junker Queen. The first fight takes place here. Houston Outlaws, they're not ready for this at all. They have no idea. So Fearless gets cleaned up, and that's that. Gladiators are going to take the lead here in this second round on Nepal. And this is what the Houston Outlaws would try to avoid moving forward. So I think this was a really neat adaptation from the Houston Outlaws. After this fight here, Gladiators are going to build to about 49%. But then we see the Houston Outlaws, they're already in control, they're in the lead. But this clip right here, it's a great display of what they're doing differently here. So, as we can see, there are different kinds of groups here. Fearless is playing close here, holding the point. We're seeing the supports back here for the Houston Outlaws. And Happy, he's just going to be able to lurk and walk around the point. So, really good setup here for the Houston Outlaws. What we're going to see them do is, we're going to see Pelican. He's going to blade on top of Fearless here and hold this corner with him. And what we're also going to see is that the backline is actually going to move all the way around, just so they can avoid those very close quarters of the LA Gladiators. So if we play this out, we'll see that the Houston Outlaws, a very different kind of approach when it comes to fighting. Of course, they're skirmishing here a little bit, but Pelican, he pulls out the Dragon Blade here on the point. Again, just look at this Genji. He's not even committing, he's not diving. So Genji players, you don't have to commit, you don't have to dive. Instead, very smartly, the Houston Outlaws, they play these open areas instead. They try to distance themselves away from the Junker Queen, away from the Reaper. And with this very neat approach, the Houston Outlaws, they close out this Nepal first map. So very well done by the Houston Outlaws. It's a great adaptation and just explains why they are so good when it comes to playing this Winston composition. It's something that I'm sure Jake is very proud of. You know, he was smiling all along, bragging about his team. So I'll admit, it was a great play, great adaptation from the Houston Outlaws right there.
Oh, yeah, you gotta understand, there's a lot to brag about when you're looking at that Houston Outlaws roster, and it's gonna feel like your kids, right, at this point, basically.
Yeah, I mean, for me especially, Happy and Pelican are 2 guys that I was able to work with in the past, and 2 of my favorite players that play and work with as a coach. And to see the 2 of them together as a DPS duo, really exciting for me. So, you know, I'm just happy to see it come to fruition with a beautiful 3-0 in their first game.
Oh my God, quit it!
Wow.
Well, you're in luck one of the kiddos is actually joining us here for our winner's interview with Danny.
Thank you so much. So, Pelican, we got Pelican or Jake's son Pelican here for the post-match interview. Pelican 선수 안녕하세요. 들리시나요?
안녕하세요.
Hi, all right, he could hear it. I mean, this match was sort of a rematch, right? Because you guys played against the Gladiators in the Pro-Am, and unfortunately, you guys lost against them. But today, you guys beat them. So, I guess, what was sort of the main difference between those two matches? 자, 첫 번째 질문은 일단 오늘 경기 승리 축하드리면서 어떻게 보면 이게 재경기라고 해야 되나요? 왜냐면 저번에 글래디와 프로엠에서 한번 이제 경기를 했다가 패배를 하신 후에 얼마 되지 않아 다시 경기를 하게 되셨는데 이번에는 승리를 거두시게 되셨습니다. 좀 어떤 변환점이 좀 있었나요?
변환점은 없고 프로암 때도 저희가 원래는 이기는 건데 저희가 못해서 졌기 때문에 크게 변화 주질 않았고 그냥 하던 대로 했더니 뭐 쉽게 이긴 것 같아요.
Right, I mean, there weren't any significant changes that went into, I guess, for this match in order for us to get the win. I honestly feel like we should have won against the Gladiators, even in the Pro-Am, but we made some silly mistakes. We couldn't really get the win then, but yeah, we just played how we usually and normally play during practices, and I think it just played out well, and we got the win against the Gladiators. My second question for you, Pelican, is it seems like the Winston composition is sort of still the meta right now. Do you think there are any other viable compositions that could be coming into play? 자, 두 번째 질문은 지금 이제 경기를 몇 개를 좀 본 후에 보니까 아직까지 좀 윈스턴을 쓰는 기용을 하는 조합들이 좀 많이 보이는 것 같습니다. 펠리칸 선수가 보셨을 때 지금 현 상황에서 윈스턴이 아닌 좀 다른 조합이 좀 어떻게 좀 사용이 될 수 있는 기회가 있다고 보시나요?
많은 팀들이 일단 자리야 뭐 정커킹 이런 걸 쓰는데 저희는 아직은 윈스턴 괜찮아 보여서 저희가 잘하는 거기도 하고 해서 네.
Alright, I mean, it does seem like, some other teams, they like to play Zarya, Junker Queen, but for us, I think the Winston composition is working very well, so I think we're gonna stick with something that we are comfortable and good at, and that is the Winston composition. Alright, Pelican, thank you so much for the interview, and again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 승리 다시 한번 축하드리면서 보내드리도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
안녕히 계세요. 바이.
잘했어, 세연아.
Jake said, great job, Sehyun. This is Pelican.
Oh, that's his name.
Oh, you can't just say Korean. You have to, come on, you have to translate. You have to translate.
All right, next time.
Now we have two translators on the desk, right? So gotta make the best use of that. But yeah, that was Pelican from the Houston Outlaws, who just got their first W of the 2023 season. And I'm pretty sure with performances like that, we're gonna see them climbing the power rankings in absolutely no time. Now, speaking of climbing, look what we got here on our screen. It's on sale right now, and it does include not just the beautiful skin, but also, of course, the Rock Climber Zarya voice line and the name card. All of that is available for just 300 League tokens before May 9th, so grab yours now. And also, if you want more competitive Overwatch action, we got you covered with our Contender Spring Series, which will bring you the best of Tier 2, which is happening actually already. So check overwatchleague.com/path2pro to catch up on all the action. Speaking of action, one more look at our schedule of the day, because we have one more match coming your way. It's going to be the last one between the LA Valiant and the Vancouver Titans, as in the last one of the day, not the last one of the two teams, because that'd be a short season.
I thought the season was over.
Okay, time to go home.
Vancouver Titans and LA Valiant. Let's take a look at the rosters first and discuss what we have in store for the 2023 season. Let's start with the Vancouver Titans lineup here. We've already got a glimpse at Vancouver yesterday. Was there any big takeaways from their performance in their first match?
Respectable. I mean, for me, very respectable performance. We know Mayhem would be one of the top teams, but I think for the Titans to take a map away and for this roster to be very new, coming together from diverse experiences, I think I wasn't worried for the Titans even taking this loss. They almost set it to a map 5. Arguably, I think they kind of let Colosseo slip away from them. They had the lead almost the whole map. I mean, Johnny can tell you, I was like, oh man, they got this. They're going map 5, but
You were hyping them up big time.
I'm a total reactionary, but I hold to it. I think they slipped up, and I think they could have won a map 5. I think they're a team to watch out for.
I wanted to go get my dog, and you were like, no, Johnny, we can't have that. We're gonna watch some more Overwatch. It's going to map 5. Well, they closed it out in 4. But yeah, the Vancouver Titans, I'd say they are favored going into this one, Zoe.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the first look we're going to have at the LA Valiant